Hello, and welcome back to McGill Library's Systematic and Scoping Reviews for Social Sciences and Education students. My name is Emily Kingsland, and I'm a librarian at McGill. Now we're going to talk about Part 3, Planning. The first step in the planning process is to ensure that previous reviews haven't been done before. Here are some sources for finding systematic and scoping reviews to make sure that no one has written about your topic before. First, you can search two different systematic and scoping review databases. The first one is called Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews. This one is considered the gold standard of published systematic reviews. You can start your search by browsing through Cochrane's database. Keep in mind that it is only a database of systematic reviews and not scoping reviews. While Cochrane has more of a health and medical focus for its systematic reviews, the Campbell Library is similar to Cochrane. However, despite its name, it's a database of both systematic and scoping reviews, and it's focused more on the social sciences. So let's hop into both of these databases. I can do a quick demo to show you how you could search for published reviews on your topic. So let's say that you're interested in autism and music therapy. You could go to Cochrane, and in the top right-hand side, you can see the search bar here, or you could click on Advanced Search. And in Advanced Search, you can see, I'll make this a little bit bigger, I've typed in autism and music therapy in quotation marks, so it finds these exact words in this exact order, and I'm going to say Run Search. So it's running my search for me, and you can see it has found two published systematic reviews on my topic: Music Therapy for Autistic People, published in 2022, and Auditory Integration Training and Other Sound Therapies for Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD. I can go and run the same search in the Campbell database. So I can click up here on Search, or I can click on Advanced Search. In Advanced Search, I can type in autism and music therapy and click on Search. And you can see it has found one systematic review on my topic: The Impact of Care Farms on Quality of Life, Depression, and Anxiety Among Different Population Groups, a systematic review. So I might have to dive into that to see if it's actually about my topic or not. So that's just a quick demo of how we could search those two specific databases to look at systematic and scoping reviews that have already been published. Once you've searched both of those, you may also want to search databases that happen to contain systematic and scoping reviews. The first database you may wish to search is called Medline, and this is our main go-to medical database. When you're in Medline, you would put your keywords that relate to your topic into the search bar. Once you search for those keywords and combine them together to form your search strategy, you will be able to click on Additional Limits. Then, under publication types, you can limit your search to meta-analysis, scoping review, and/or systematic review. Similarly, in the database PsycInfo, which is our main psychology database, you could run your search, click on Additional Limits, and then you'll see there's a methodology box with a drop-down menu, and you can choose from either literature review, meta-analysis, or systematic review. So let's do a quick demo of that so you can see what it looks like for real. So here is the database Medline. You can see I have searched for the topic. In this database, they call it autistic disorder and music therapy. I've combined them together, and it has a total of 79 articles. So of those 79 articles, I want to see how many of those are a knowledge synthesis. So what I would do is I would scroll down to where it says Additional Limits right here. I click on Additional Limits, and then I'm going to scroll down to the section that says Publication Types. And from here, you can see I could select, I'll just scroll down, and I can select meta-analysis. And I can select, let's keep going, scoping review, systematic review. So let's say I search all three. I scroll down and click on the button that says limit a search. And of those 79 articles, 8 of them are either a meta-analysis, a scoping review, or a systematic review. So I can scroll down and I can have a look at those documents. Okay, let's repeat this process in the psychology database PsycInfo. So PsycInfo is owned by the same company that owns Medline, so you can see it's quite similar. In PsycInfo, it's referred to as autism spectrum disorders. That's the subject heading they've assigned to this group. And music therapy. So I search for those two together with and you can see it's found 266 articles. In this case, once again, we're going to scroll down to the box that says additional limits and click on that. And now we're going to scroll down to something that says methodology. Under methodology, you can see that we can select literature review, systematic review, or meta-analysis. Scroll down to say limit a search. And we can see that of the 266 articles, 28 of them are either a lit review, a systematic review, or a meta-analysis. And again, we would be able to scroll down and browse through all of those. Now, you may have noticed that in Medline, I believe, let me just see. Yeah, in Medline, there isn't a way to limit by literature reviews. And in PsycInfo, we don't have a way to limit by scoping reviews. So here's the workaround for that. So we're still in PsycInfo right now. So a way to limit to scoping reviews is to simply type scoping review in quotation marks, and we're going to select title because odds are scoping reviews will identify themselves as such in the title of the article. And we'll click on search. Now we're going to combine line 3, which is our 266 articles about autism and music therapy. We're going to select line 5, which is articles that have the words scoping review in the title, and we're going to combine them with and. And you can see there is one article out there, which is a scoping review potentially about my topic. We can go and repeat this process in Medline for literature reviews. So again, I'm going to type literature review in quotation marks so it finds those exact words in that exact order. I'm going to select title and click on search. Then I'm going to combine line 3 of my search, which are the 79 articles about autism and music therapy. I'm going to select line 5, which is articles that contain the words literature review in the title. And I'm going to say and it found 0. So in this database, there aren't any lit reviews on this topic as far as we can tell. So that is how you would use Medline and PsycInfo, again, to find published systematic reviews, scoping reviews, lit reviews, or meta-analyses on your topic. Okay, so what about in-process reviews? So in addition to searching for existing published reviews, you may also want to make sure that no one is currently working on a systematic review. Prospero is an international and prospective register of systematic reviews. You can browse Prospero's website by putting in a few keywords related to your topic and scrolling through the results to ensure that no one is currently working on your systematic review topic. Prospero is only a register of systematic reviews, so you're not going to find any scoping reviews here. In addition, Prospero only registers systematic reviews with health-related outcomes. If you're looking for scoping reviews that folks are currently working on, or systematic reviews with non-health related outcomes, then you may wish to browse OSF registries, which stands for Open Science Framework Registries. So let's have a quick look at these two, again, using our same sample topic of autism and music therapy. So first, let's go to Prospero. So this is what Prospero looks like. Top right-hand side of your screen, you can click on the search button. Okay, and then in here, you can say, I'm going to search for autism and music therapy, in quotation marks, search. And you can see it's pulled up 74 results on my topic. So I would be able to browse through them. I would be able to see what year they're registered in, if they're currently ongoing, or if they have finalized and are waiting publication, and so on. Same deal with OSF registries. I would type it in my search box right here, autism and music therapy, and hit enter. And then I would be able to scroll through and see all of the prospective searches that have been registered in these two databases. So again, this is like simply looking at folks who are currently, working on this topic. It hasn't been published yet. So the next step in the process is for you to draft a protocol. So let's say you haven't found anyone else who has published or is currently working on your topic. So what is a protocol? So a systematic review protocol, it describes the rationale, hypothesis, and planned methods of your review. It could be a scoping review or systematic review. It should be prepared before review is started and used as a guide, like a guiding document to carry out your review. The main resource to help authors prepare a protocol for a systematic review is called PRISMA, which stands for Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analyses. So PRISMA, they provide guidelines and examples on how we could go about writing a protocol for your review. Now, if you're the type of person who learns more by looking at examples of completed protocols, then your best bet would be to browse through Prospero or OSF to see what other folks have done. Because basically, those two databases are places where people register their protocols, their registries. So, if we go back to Prospero, let's look at this top result. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Harnessing technology assisted art tools in autism spectrum disorders, a systematic review of evaluation and clinical implementation, ongoing. So if we click on it, what we can do is we can see all of the names of the authors that are working on this particular topic. We can see their title, the condition that's being studied, and the rationale for their review. And we can also read through their review objectives. They're supplying us with keywords. So again, this is what they would probably provide to the journal that they're submitting to eventually as their author supplied keywords. And we can see they're based in Iran. Under their eligibility criteria, of course, we've discussed this in an earlier video, you can see what population they're looking at here. So they want everyone to have autism spectrum disorder and have it be diagnosed according to the criteria from the DSM-5. They're giving ages for their participants. So they're looking at people age 3 to age 30. And then they have their exclusion criteria as well. So for example, if there's music therapy, but it's a non-art-based intervention, they're not interested and that would be excluded. They're also talking about any comorbidities, as we talked about earlier. You can see what their timeline is. So you can see they submitted to Prospero in April of 2025, although they did start it back in October of 2024. The end date is April of this year, although they might not have updated it. It might still be ongoing, even that's their, the date they hope to finish it. And then you can see their searching and their screening criteria. They've linked to a PDF so you can see what their search strategy is. They're talking about their data collection processes, outcomes that they plan on analyzing, their planned data synthesis, and here you can see what current stage they're at. So they still need to work on their data extraction according to this. Then you can see all of the names and the affiliations of the researchers, the co-authors on this project. They share some additional information. And what's interesting in Prospero is that Prospero goes and checks to see if anybody else has already submitted something on this topic. And then here you can see they've highlighted 3 other articles that were submitted to Prospero and that were judged to be not similar. So while they sound similar when they went into it and looked at it, they could see that this particular topic hasn't been done before. It's unique. And so they were able to register their protocol, their idea with Prospero. Okay, so that might be a helpful way for you to look at how to go about writing your protocol. You can see what other folks have had accepted by Prospero, maybe people who are writing on a topic similar to yours. It could give you some inspiration. Similarly, if we go to OSF, Open Science Framework, we can click on this one right here. We'll just wait for it to load. Again, this is the beauty of doing a live demo. But OSF, you're going to see it's kind of got a similar vibe to Prospero. There's a lot of categories that it's going to ask you to fill out: the title of the paper, the author's names, where they're based, the population under review, and so on. So here you can see, I'll make this a little bit bigger for you, their anticipated start date and their anticipated date of completion. You can see what stage they're at, the name of the contact, where they're based, the review question that they have, some of their inclusion and exclusion criteria, such as English language. They share what databases they're searching. They've got a basic search strategy right here, the population participation, and so on and so forth. So again, these could give you inspiration to how to go about writing your own protocol for your own review. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so once you have drafted your protocol, you are going to want to assemble a team, a review team. So let's see what an ideal review team would look like. So first of all, you need to have a team leader. This person would be the lead author on the eventual published systematic or scoping review. They're the one who takes care of completing the Prospero or OSF form and submitting their protocol. It is recommended that you submit your protocol to Prospero or OSF as a way of registering this idea. So, again, this allows other authors to know that you are currently writing on this topic, and it will discourage them from going ahead and writing an identical review. It is a similar idea to when you have an invention and you're looking to patent that invention or that idea. You register that patent in the same way that you would register your idea for your topic for your review. The team leader also keeps an eye on the timeline. The team leader will create the first draft of the paper and circulate it and revise it amongst the team members. Finally, the team leader will submit the paper to a journal for publication. Next up, we have the content expert. So the team leader can also be the content expert, but all systematic and scoping reviews need to have a minimum of 2 authors for publication. This is extremely important as a way to minimize risk of bias. No credible, scholarly, and academic journal will accept a systematic or scoping review with only one single author. So, if you were a single author and you're writing a systematic or scoping review, note that this may be acceptable for a course assignment or for your comprehensive exams. You will not be able to publish it as a single author. You need to have at least 2 authors on a team. The content expert ensures that the research question is answerable, relevant, and hasn't already been addressed in the literature. The content expert is often the second author on the article and essentially does the same work as the team leader, but in a supporting role. Next up, we have reviewers. So this is 1 to 2 members of the team who are going to help apply the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So the team leader and the content expert can also act in the role of reviewers. However, you may wish to reach out to other fellow PhD or master's students, or even perhaps undergraduate students in an honors program who can help you apply the inclusion and exclusion criteria. It's always helpful to have many people aiding in the process because it helps minimize risk of bias and it really helps distribute the workflow. The reviewers may also be the ones who run the final searches in the databases and export the search results into Covidence, which is a web-based software platform that streamlines the process of conducting systematic and scoping reviews. We'll be talking about Covidence more in depth later in the workshop. Reviewers, by the way, should indeed receive authorship credit on your publication. So again, the team leader, the content expert, and the reviewers, they are all co-authors on the publication. So now we move on to optional members or advisors for the team. A statistician is a requirement if you are conducting a meta-analysis. And as we previously discussed in part 1 of the workshop, a meta-analysis normally takes place as a second step in a systematic review. So generally, statisticians are brought on board if you're conducting a meta-analysis because they involve looking at data and statistics that are found in articles under review. A librarian may also be brought on board as an advisor for the team, as they can advise on search strategies and database selection. It's recommended that you reach out to your liaison librarian so they can help you with this step. Lastly, it's time to produce a review protocol. So your protocol, we discussed, you can get inspiration by looking at the PRISMA guidelines. You can also go to Prospero and OSF to see other folks who have completed protocols. And you'll notice that all protocols include a timeline. So your protocol should include the project timeline. By the way, all these links are going to appear in the description of this YouTube video. So here's a sample timeline, just to give you an idea of how long this usually takes. So you are going to submit to Prospero or OSF, and this generally takes 1 month. So in this 1 month, you've come up with your research question, you've assembled your team, you've chosen which databases you want to search, and perhaps you've come up with a preliminary search strategy. You've definitely come up with your inclusion and exclusion criteria, especially if this is a systematic review. And you're going to want to include all of this in your submission to Prospero or OSF so that you can register your idea for your review. Do keep in mind that it may take some time before you hear back from either Prospero or OSF, so it's good to submit as early as possible. Okay, then we have to finish the first round of your review. So this can take up to 3 months, and included in this first round is building your searches, running them in various databases, exporting these results into Confidence, and then having the team look at the titles and the abstracts of each article and determining whether or not they meet the search criteria. Round 2 takes another 2 to 3 months. Round 2 is looking at the remaining articles that you have left. And at this juncture, you're going to be skimming the full text of the articles and once again applying your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then you have to finish the data abstraction. This can take around 1 month. This is going through the remaining articles that you have left, comparing them to one another, looking at the data, and seeing how the data helps you answer your research question. Then you have to draft your manuscript. This can take 1 month if you're devoting all of your time to drafting it, but obviously it can take longer if you have competing priorities. And then submitting your manuscript. So you want to identify the right journal for publication, amend the citations in your article to match that journal's citation style, and then submit your publication. So all in all, you can see that writing a systematic or scoping review is not a quick and easy process. It can take anywhere from 8 months up to a year. And this is from the time that you come up with the idea till you submit it to the journal for publication. All right, so now it's time for another quick round of true or false. So true or false, the person who runs the searches and exports the results to Confidence is a co-author. True or false? It's true. They're a co-author. All right, next, true or false? I can register my scoping review protocol with Prospero. True or false? It's false. Prospero is only for systematic reviews with health-related outcomes. You can register your scoping review with OSF. All right, we've now reached the end of part 3. Stay tuned for part 4, where we talk about the identifying part of the process. See you soon.